The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Hello, this is Divya, and it's Tuesday morning, and I'm so thrilled to be here with you all because this is one of the favorite times of the day for me. So I want to thank each and every one of you who have got our books because we could not do without your support. And also thank you for leaving us reviews. And I want to share that we were able to help another entrepreneur across the globe through kiva.org. Because you've helped us and the partial profits from our books, go to kiva.org. And of course, I'm really passionate about entrepreneurs because entrepreneurs are the agents of change. And for those of you who have not got our books, please grab a copy because not only it's going to help you in your life, it's also going to help another global entrepreneur because of your contribution. And as always, I'm inviting you to spend that hour of your time every month with no strings attached. Help somebody. Let's keep the kindness circle going. So important. And I want to share story about Ivana. So Ivana reached out and she shared how did she help out. So her neighbors were out of town and she took care of their dog. And she didn't charge them anything. Usually the dog goes in the kennel and she decided like, you know what? Let me spend some time with dog. So that of course went way beyond 1 hour, but I want to share her kindness story with you all. So thank you, Vanna, for running that. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on our guest. We've got a special guest in store for you. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you for having me on. That's a lovely story. I appreciated you sharing that. I love what you said about kindness, the circle of kindness, and continuing that on. Very important to me too. Lovely, lovely.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And because without kindness, life can be very, very hard. And it's just amazing that we have lost that art of kindness. It's just a simple thing we can do for someone without investment, without spending that much time or energy. And it can become such a beautiful thing. And one thing I do want to share is that kindness is more for ourselves than for anybody else because it makes us feel good.
It does. It does. Yeah, we have, how every company has their company values, and our number one is kindness. And I've had people look at me funny when I said number one is kindness. But if you are, people will forgive anything. You could make a mistake, miss a meeting, mess up a delivery date. But if they will not forgive the experience. And if they don't feel like they were dealt with respect and kindness, they're going to go away mad. And so, yeah. And it's just bad karma, I guess. So, yeah. I'm with you. I think that's lovely. Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you on the show. So, Sarah, tell us if you remember any moment from your childhood or youth that still stands out for you today.
My childhood, that's a while back. lots of things stand out. I'm trying to think of something in particular. That's a question I've never been asked. I've done hundreds of radio shows, TV shows, and podcasts. You are the first to ask me about something that stands out in my childhood. I remember that I was never very good at sports, but I loved dance, and I loved to play dress up. So I got a hold of some old dresses that the ladies in the neighborhood all were going to donate, and I put them in a trunk. And my brother found some things, and we just played. I got all the other kids in the neighborhood involved, and we would play dress up incessantly. And then finally we decided, you know what, we're going to turn this into a show, and we're going to charge admission. I'm an entrepreneur at like 8, right? So it was okay. We're going to charge admission, and so I think it was a quarter. I'm pretty sure it was like 25 cents, and so we got like everybody in the neighborhood came to this thing, and we literally put on a show in the garage. And it was a lot of fun. And I remember thinking to myself, I like running things. I really like this is fun. This is working for me. And there's a photo of we also had a Kool-Aid stand, not lemonade, but Kool-Aid, because that was all we had in the house. And my brother was standing next to me. He was a couple of years younger than I was. And there's this great photo. I think it might even still be on the website, of me at 7 or something, and my brother at about 5. And we put it on the website, and it says, "Here's Sarah with her first training her first employee." So I have a feeling I was always supposed to run a company.
So what a beautiful memory, because think about it. When so many times, people look at these ventures like, oh, kids want to do it. But if it is something that we can encourage in children or adults, doesn't matter whenever you are, what I am seeing is that everybody came together. The whole neighborhood came together. It was fun. They were supportive, and that's what builds a community, and which is so important, especially in today's day and age of social media and so much disconnect going on. So you definitely showed the makings of an entrepreneur.
I always had to make it an entrepreneur. And I really do believe in creating a tribe. My brother and I, something sort of interesting about my life was we moved, I think, 16 times as kids. My dad was a professor, so we were going from city to city as he was opening up different university programs. And so I started to feel like, oh wow, we keep moving, I keep losing all these friends. And all of a sudden I thought, no, one day these people will be my tribe from all these cities around the world. The whole world is just a small town. And I think that as the years have gone by, and we now have social media, and we have, which is good and bad, but we have ways to connect with that tribe that we've had, maybe from grade school, maybe from high school, college, if you went to college, or what other kind of adventures you've been on, first job, second job. And it's lovely now that you can collect those special human beings and have them in that tribe, and be able to encourage each other along the way. Very important and powerful.
Absolutely.
And it changed my life quite a bit. Yeah.
No, and I like how you said the world is a small town, just like they say, world is my oyster. And having that tribe, so it's using that different perspective. So as you grow, what would you say was your biggest experience getting to new towns? I mean, of course, on one hand, there is that sense of adventure, and at the same time, losing your friends. And you did mention that you were up for it.
It was definitely difficult. I think it sounds more exciting than it is. It may be very good at adapting into different places. So as a speaker, it's come in handy, because I could literally pick up a Southern accent in 2 or 3 days. My brother's even better at it than I am. I could go to England and I could, pick up whatever dialect was in that region, to a point where people didn't know we were foreigners, because when you're a kid, being foreign is not good. That is in the bad column. So it's come in handy when I've been speaking in places where I didn't necessarily have a lot in common with people. I've been able to find out what's important to them. What are the big sports teams? What are the big issues of the area? How do they call something Coke or Pepsi, pop or soda, or do they call them trainers or sneakers or tennis shoes? Or, it's just those little things that allow you to bond with people and have as much in common as possible. So it's been helpful. For a shy kid, it was difficult, but it also made me less shy. It also, it forced me to be a more outgoing person. And then that part of me that was good on stage, that part of me that was a good director, that part of me that was a good entrepreneur did come out. And I think that as difficult as it was for us as kids, my childhood was very difficult. I wouldn't give it up because I like who I became because of it. And I think we bring honor and dignity to any suffering we have, small or large, when we use it to help other people. And I feel like I use all the things I've experienced my whole entire life to help other people every day.
And that's what matters at the end of the day. And you said it very nicely that it was difficult. And when we are talking about having that difficult things, as you grow up, where did your interest take you?
I went to New York University and I studied theater. Eventually started a theater company with a couple of my pals, and we had a Broadway theater company for about a decade. I got to do a lot of directing, some acting. We had off Broadway way downtown in New York City. Went to, it was a Broadway theater company. Eventually we did larger New York Times, reviewed shows and stuff. So it was very interesting, and it was a background that you wouldn't think would feed into what I do. But by the time I was 20 something, I had a multi-million-dollar business I was running with my two partners. And I didn't know you weren't supposed to just go to big corporations or go to heads of things and say, you were supposed to say, hey, give us some money for this theater company. It'll be great. We throw wonderful parties. So it's like, that was my life, but I didn't, there's a great thing about being naive and not knowing the rules yet. If you don't know what the rules are, it's okay to break them. And everybody just sort of laughs and goes, okay, kid, we'll give you whatever you want. So I think the fact that I've always been a very determined and passionate person has paid off. Some might say a bit stubborn, but overall, that's not always a bad thing. I think the fact that you just chip away at whatever the goal is, even when I was fairly young. And it doesn't mean that I didn't have terribly hard times coming along. That was my first business. We had shows that did not do well. We had shows that did very well. Surviving all that was difficult. One of my best friends died of AIDS, and it just, he was my North Star. It was very difficult. So there were a lot of things. There were a lot of things that I've been trying, but the fact that you have some sense of a goal of helping other people or entertaining other people or just making some sort of difference, that is what's kept me going during any dark times that I had. Yeah.
Yeah, no, sounds like you definitely had your fair share of experiences, difficult, challenging, adversities, whatever we want to call them. So now you mentioned about directing a lot of shows at such a tender young age. So did you ever wish to get on the stage?
I did a fair amount on stage. I did Kate and Taming of the Shrew. We did it set in the 1950s with a live motorcycle on stage. So that was interesting. We had Elvis Presley and 1950s music going, and it was really something. We get these, one of the ways you pay for a Broadway show is you get busloads of kids and busloads of elderly people that come in on Wednesdays, and the elderly people all talk very loudly, and because some of them can't hear too well, bless their hearts, and crinkly candies and it was very, very interesting, and yet they were the most lovely, generous with their praise, kind people. And the teenagers, you always thought, oh gosh, here comes the teenagers. What are we going to do? They're not going to get this. They're not going to like this. I'm not sure I would have liked this 10 years ago or whatever. And they were the most enthusiastic. They were absolutely, we had teenagers that came back and wanted to pay for the show, like half a dozen more. We wouldn't let any of them pay for it, but over and over and over again, they would be in line trying to get to see the show. And so it was really interesting to me that they would walk in like, oh, my teacher's making me do this. And then, 20 minutes in, they were really riveted and laughing and having a good time. So, but we had a great theater company. So a bunch of the people that we had in the theater company have gone on to do movies and TV and write movies and act. And so, yeah, we really had fun doing it. I hit one day where I thought, I really want to make more of a difference, and I don't know what that looks like. And so, so I got this book. I'm very dyslexic, so I got it on audio, as I get a lot of things on audio these days too. But it was called Wishcraft, and it was like, what do you wish for, and how are you going to craft what is it you wish for? I didn't know what it was going to be, but I sort of had this image of me standing on stage talking as myself. And I was like, I don't know what that would be. And so, because I didn't know anything about the speaking industry. And then I had this girlfriend of mine that had been our stage manager for years. And she took this big fancy corporate job, was so proud of her. And she was out in California, and she said, you got to come. I have a budget for a speaker to come in. And I said, I literally said, what is a speaker? She said, well, we pay you money and we fly you on a nice airplane, and you stay in a beautiful hotel, not those drafty theaters you're used to, but we like a nice hotel overlooking the ocean this time. And I was like, ooh, ocean, I like ocean. She's like, yes. And we pay you money, and then you stand up and you talk about stuff. And I thought, I think my parents would have paid me to stop talking as a child. This is some sort of joke. She goes, no, I want you to tell, like, how did you build the theater company, and how did you take it from zero to millions of dollars with, lots of help from the whole team. It wasn't just me. And, and she said, how did you do that? Why did it work? And I'm like, really? She goes, yeah, you're really funny. Tell all those funny stories you tell, you'll be fine. I'm like, what funny stories? I don't know how funny I am. Apparently she thinks I'm funny. So I get on the plane, I go out there, and I think, oh, this is gonna be great. And I was so new at this that I didn't know to ask all the questions you're supposed to ask. You're supposed to say, how many people will be there? What's the male-female ratio? What do you people sell? Would be kind of a good question to ask. None of that stuff. Am I going to be translated into other languages? I have learned that's an extremely important question to ask. So I get there, and I'm standing there, and I'm looking around. And there's all these people wearing these T-shirts, and that all look the same. And there's hundreds of them. And I'm thinking, that's an awful lot of people with the same T-shirt. I think that's the name of her company. And so there I see her. There's Margaret. And I said, Margaret, I have to ask you a question. How many people are at this conference? She goes, I've got about 1,000. And I went, and I think my face just blanched. She's like, you've entertained people, more than thousands of people all the time. You're going to be fine. I'm like, not as myself, not with my own script. I had Shakespeare to lean on, or Sam Shepard, or somebody else, not as me. So she says, oh, you'll be fine. So I don't know what to do with myself. And again, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I start walking around and grabbing people and going, tell me what you sell. How do you sell it? What's it look like? And so people were taking me into their like hotel rooms and conference rooms and showing me their products and demonstrating how they promote them. Everything was done by presentation. And I thought, well, does that actually work? No, we hate the presentation. Like, well, why don't you just do it this way? Well, I'm a director, so direct. And they go, this is the greatest thing. I said, well, you have to sit up front because I don't know anybody here. You need to sit up front. Please cheer. When I come in, like, be nice. It'll be good. Like, sure. We'll bring our friends. So I've got like 100 people now when I get up to speak in front of me. Thank the Lord. And they cheered their little hearts out. Thank heavens, right? So I get up there and I don't know what I'm doing. So I tell a funny story because she told me to, and they laughed. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to die. And then I started telling another story, and they laughed again. I said, still not going to die. And then I thought, that presentation stuff seems to be really important to these people. I'm customizing. This is called customizing. Before I knew what customizing was. And I said, let me grab that nice gal who was so good at this. And I dragged this one woman up stage. The poor thing. She's like, what's happening? And I say, hey, tell me about your presentation, the way you were doing it yesterday. And she goes, oh, we all hate this presentation. Everybody in the whole audience moans about their PowerPoint and everything. And she goes, but Sarah showed me something different. So she showed how she was doing it. And then she showed how I showed her how to do it. And people went nuts. They're cheering and all this kind of stuff. And I said, okay, well, does anybody else want to try it? So I drag a couple more people on. And I don't know, this is a keynote. You don't do that. But I do. I did. Why not? So they're all coming up. And then I told a really sad story and everybody cried. And I thought, well, at least I have emotion. These people, I don't know how helpful I was. I probably wasn't that great, but I was trying really hard. And at the end, everybody's in tears and people. And at the end, people stood. I knew standing ovation. I knew that was good. Everybody stood up. I mean, everybody. And they were like, people were standing on their chairs and twirling napkins. And I thought, oh, this is what I meant to do next. Because I'd been feeling so restless, like, oh, this is what I kind of had some vague inkling in my mind. And it tells you the power of having some idea of a direction that God, the universe, trees, what everyone believes, fills in the rest for you in a really lovely way. And then next thing I know, of course, I ended up, they said, can you come back and can you coach? And I was like, Little League? And no, can you coach all these people that you were coaching, like in the hallway? Can you do the same? Yeah, we'll give you all the top people. So their division was 52 out of 53 divisions. About a year and a half later, they went to division number 2 and started telling everybody how great I was. So I got to speak at all, every single division, all of them, and coach a lot of those people. Eventually sold my company to my 2 partners. They still have it to this day. They're amazing. I'm so proud of them. And then, next thing I know, things really started to take off. They got bought out by another big, or really, really big company, and I was out of a job. This is how you learn. Do not have all of your business in one spot. That is not smart. So it was in one company. And I had this girlfriend, she goes, you just know nothing about the industry. You should work with one of the big guys and learn something. So I found Jim Rohn, who had taught Tony Robbins, all these other people. Oh, he was amazing. And I got to work for him for 2.5 years until I started getting in, tons of business. And he was so encouraging. He was like, go. Are you sure? Don't want to leave you in the, no. So I learned a lot about sales and a lot about marketing, a lot about the business from him. Very helpful. First big mentor, so supportive. He used to say, read 30 minutes a day, because in 3 to 5 years, you will be a nationally known expert. Doesn't matter the color of your skin. Doesn't matter what gender you are. He looked at me very pointedly on that one. Doesn't matter if you're tall, short, fat, thin. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You'll be a nationally known expert, because nobody does that. The average person does not read an entire book a year. Not one. I don't know. Like I read 3/4 of the book and give up. I don't know how this works, but less than a book a year on average. So I have dyslexia, so I took speed reading because I'm such an overachiever. And then the next thing I know, I read a book a day for 7 years. I went back to Jim Rohn to tell him what I was up to, and he said, "You're overcompensating." And he literally said, "That's enough." That's enough. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, terrific journey.
A couple of books a day is enough. But at that point, he was right. At that point, I was getting, pretty hefty speaking engagements and good fees and doing, quite a bit better. And then I started falling into consulting after that. But I ended up speaking to about almost 3,000 groups now and about 3.5 million participants. And it's all thanks to the support I've had from my tribe over the years.
So let's say somebody's thinking about becoming a speaker. So what are the initial steps they can take?
Well, people always ask me, how did you get started? And then I say, you don't really want to know that, because the way I started, it doesn't exist anymore. It was 20 years ago. It doesn't exist. The way that it works to start now is different. Now, in order to grow your business in general, speaking is just such a fabulous way to do it. Whether you want to be a professional speaker like you are and like I am and so many people we know, or whether you want to be a professional speaker, seen as a professional speaker as a way to build something on the others. If you're on the other side of what you got, if you're profitable and you're happy, clap your hands. And if you're helping people, that's really all that matters. So now what I would say is the industry has squished a lot. It used to be when I started, you could do a lot of freebie speaking, and you could still do that for good platform time and practice. And then there'd be some people who'd see you and go, hey, can we give you, $500, $1,000, $2,000 to come in and speak, which doesn't sound too bad until you realize it takes 40 hours at least to get every speech. And then it takes 40 hours of prep and from you and your team so we were talking 80 hours of time every time you stand on stage. So when people were like, oh my gosh, you get like thousands and thousands of dollars to speak, I go,
Yeah. And then a
I
lot of
don't,
people don't even realize if
they
you're
don't get
traveling, then from the minute you leave the door and the
I don't
minute
get
you're coming back, it's the
right.
time gone.
It's a lot of time, and it's a huge amount of customizing and going, listening to the CEO cry on your shoulder and solving everybody's problems. And but no, I don't get to take, that many thousands of dollars and just go to Aruba. I really don't. So, but it flattened out. What happened was a lot of those people, a lot of the people that were paying small amounts disappeared because they realized that people that had something to sell were also sometimes very good speakers. So they'd say, hey, come in and speak for free, which is a great way to go if you are trying to sell something. You can speak for free all over town. And you can, if you're making it up on the back end, that's you're still being of service, you're still helping people. And if you can make, $1,000, $10,000, $50,000, $1 million on the back end, all the better. So it doesn't really matter how it works. But what's happened is that path of starting from speaking for free and then working your way up to fee has become very, very difficult. There's this sort of squished where you have to kind of come in fairly high. You have to come in as a thought leader, as an expert, and as somewhat of a celebrity now to be able to get some of the higher level positions that are, that's all that's left. There aren't any of those little, so people say, well, I'm just getting started. I'm just going to charge $1,000 a speech. And I go, well, you'll never work. And they think, what? And it's because there aren't any $1,000. Well, not none. I mean, I'm sure someone somewhere will find one and say, I found the one. But there are very, very few of those. Most of them they aren't going to take you seriously until you're at a certain financial level. And a speakers bureau, if you know what a speakers bureau is, it's like an agent, but you can have multiples of them. They're not going to take somebody where they're only going to make a few pennies on them. They need to make a fairly big chunk. Not that most speakers are going to have speakers bureaus knocking down their door in the beginning unless they are a big celebrity. So what's happened is there's more niching happening. People they're looking for somebody that's specific to that industry, and there's fewer things that they're looking for, but they're looking for more of them. So like in the realm of corporations, when you're talking about large corporations, they're looking $4 out of $5 in that arena is going to help the salespeople. So they're looking for make my salespeople sell better, and they're looking for make my leaders better leaders with that last dollar out of the $5, maybe 75 cents. And then there's always 20 cents of something strange, like AI or chat GBT right now, which, maybe that'll be around forever. Probably everybody will be sick of talking about it in 6 months. So finding something that fits into the two major categories they're looking for is really helpful in that industry, in that part of the industry. And then even within corporations, there are big segments. There's financial, there's real estate, which they pay in a totally different way. So there's all these different segments and then there's just the big Fortune 500. I've spoken for IBM, Ford, Redken, OPI, Nails, Toyota. So, some of those bigger companies they think differently. They're looking for different things. They're not looking to grow necessarily. Sometimes those middle managers are looking to make sure that they look good to the people above them and they aren't totally making the people below them unhappy. And then in the entrepreneurial space, if you're looking at small to medium-sized businesses, which is where I've spent most of my time speaking direct sales and in medium-sized business associations, those organizations, they're looking for somebody that can help them grow their business, which is why my double your business in 1 year or less has been really, really popular all over the years. And then they're looking for people to help them control the beast that is their company once it gets a little bit bigger. And they're looking for some free time. So you have to tie into really the first one will always get you business, or the second one will get you some business in certain places if that's what you do, especially on the back end. And the third one, if you can throw in something about how this is going to save you a bunch of time, that will make that part of the market happy. And then there are other parts of the industry. There's self-help. There's not a lot of money there on the front end, but they tend to buy everything on the back end. That's tied to the women's market, If you are a woman, that doesn't necessarily mean that you belong in the women's market. I always say the day that a man comes to me and says, I want to speak in the men's market, then every woman should speak in the women's market. I had a CEO that came to me, CEO of a Fortune 1000 company. And she said, well, everyone around me has told me I should be speaking in the women's market. Well, it's the second lowest paying part of the industry that exists after high schools and churches. It's like really low. And I said, we can make it up on the back end, but do you really want to just speak to women's organizations? Not there's anything wrong with it, but I could tell she didn't want to do that, but everyone was pointing her that way just because she was female, which really annoys me. And I said, well, if we put you over there, that's fine, if that's where your heart is, but you have to find a way to speak about something you love, you're passionate about, you care about, say it in a way that other people actually want to buy though, and then make sure you're fitting yourself into the right market. Because I've seen women get stuck in the women's market that didn't want to be. I've seen women that love being in that market. That's great. I've seen women get sort of stuck over there where even the large corporations, like let's say Tropicana is doing a women's conference, they're not over there looking at any of the women's conference speakers. They're only looking at, I'll be the one woman and 9 men. And they'll go, oh yeah, she should be at our women's conference. Because I'm who they saw on their main stage. So if you're not, and they have a concern of, if we pick somebody who speaks to the women's market, do we have to send all the men away when they come? Like that's the dumbest thing in the world. But you have to realize not everybody has imagination. They just don't.
Very true. Sometimes it's also thinking. So what I'm hearing from you is that it's important to establish your expertise, experience, and build that online presence so that as people are bringing in speakers, you have a fair chance. Because as you mentioned, initially, that's how I started out speaking. It was more for honorariums rather than getting paid. And then, of course, at the end, if you have a book, they would say, yeah, please feel free to share your books. And in so many times it would happen is they would buy my books for their audience. And then that brought a good chunk of change. So there are a lot of different ways people can get started out. And nowadays, of course, the whole new different areas, people are becoming influencers on TikTok and social media and YouTube, where they don't even have to get out of their homes. So there are multiple ways to get started.
To do that. You just have to make sure it matches the market you want to go after.
Exactly.
We are on TikTok. I do videos on TikTok, and we actually got a referral from TikTok the other day. I just about fell over, but it's certainly not our main, mainly we're on, we're on LinkedIn. We've actually got 9,000 people on Facebook and something similar on, we've got an Instagram and a little bit on Twitter, but anyway, but you have to, LinkedIn is the main one because that's a business platform. That's where we fit. And because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs that, Facebook of a certain generation fits there too. But if you start with social media, that can be a bit tricky, because if you're just putting out if you're just being on Instagram all the time, okay, I had this gal that came to me and said, I need to grow my business. And she had well over 1 million followers and 0 speaking business and almost no business. Because you're not monetizing any of that. So you can have a lot of followers, but not be leading them anywhere that also helps you. So you have to make sure that it's always a win-win. What do you want to be known for? And that comes down to branding and titling, the way you title your speech. You will live and die by the way you title that speech. If you title your speech as something that those corporations are going to be looking for on sales, how do you make our salespeople sell more? They'll always pay for that. Doesn't matter. It can be a recession. It can be a great economy. Doesn't matter. They're always going to say, things are bad. Better get those salespeople out there selling more. Get me a sales speaker. And then the other way, hey, business is good. Hey, give them 5 sales speakers. Yeah, that's even better. So and then leaders, if the leaders aren't leading the whole company in an efficient way, and if they aren't leading those salespeople to sell more, then that company is going to die. So it's really, really important to them. So understanding how each market buys, and then writing a title that matches that, but also matches your expertise. You're not saying I'm going to write on underwater basket weaving, you know, just because you think that's fascinating. I had this guy come up to me at a speech, and he said, I want to be you someday when I grow up, which I hear that a lot, which always makes me laugh, because I think I'm not sure you want every problem I have in my real life, you know, because I'm human and I'm not, you know, superhuman like they seem to think I am on stage. But I said, oh, that's great. You should definitely do it. He goes, oh yeah, I know what I want to speak on. I said, great. What do you want to speak on? Well, I want to speak on solar eclipses. And I went, okay. And you want to do this for money? And I didn't know how else. So I was like, not my most tactful, but I was like, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. He'd been a CEO of Fortune 5,000 company, really well known. And I said, well, have you ever thought maybe about speaking about, I don't know, how to lead, how to get your team to do what you want them to do, how to be more successful in business, the things you are an expert in? Naturally, he goes, no, solar eclipses are just my passion. I said, well, what if we had you speak about leadership and getting your team to do things that you were hoping that they will do? And at the end, you could tell one fabulous story about standing at, you know, Machu Picchu and watching the solar eclipse and how it changed your life. And we'd all go, oh, he's human. Isn't that nice? But, you know, you don't want to throw out all of your past experiences and all your expertise as you're talking about the latest thing that you have found to be interesting. So if he had called his speech, solar eclipses are awesome, I don't think he would, I'm not going to give away who it is, but I don't think he'd be in the Speakers Hall of Fame right now. So
absolutely. So what I'm hearing is, first of all, match the market. If you're not getting speaking gigs, you can start out a little bit with social media. And if you're on social media, be sure how you're monetizing it. Bringing back the people to you. And then create a title.
The title, the social media part of it is great for reaching out to people you already know, because most people don't realize that people you already know are in associations, or they may know people in associations, you know, so starting it that way, rather than just trying to, like I said earlier, have a million people following you. So yes, you're right. It can be really, really helpful. But if you use your social media to reach out to people you already actually know and take advantage of who they know, the average person on social media knows 283, I think, people on Facebook, and at least 220 on LinkedIn. That's a lot of people. So even if you only know 200 people, they know people who that you can talk to. You can say, hey, I'm expanding my business and I need your help. Who do you know who brings in outside professional speakers at your company or at that association that you belong to? But if you start small, it grows a lot faster than if you try to just have a zillion people. So yes, you're right. And there's a way to do it that is smart. Yeah. And then the title part. Yes. Thank you for letting me interrupt. I appreciate it.
So second degree of connections, as they say, that, you know, everybody's within your 6 degrees of connection. So like if you go like, you know, 1 degree, asking people and you can connect with it. So the key is bringing back people to you, because if you're just kind of going out there and throwing or thinking like, okay, let me take spaghetti and throw it on the wall and see if it sticks or not, it doesn't work. So it's important to strategize. And one of the key things, as you were mentioning, is definitely speak to your expertise. And it's not just the expertise, but what does the market want? Because you could be the best speaker in town, and yet if the market doesn't want, you're not going to get paid for it. And this is, of course, especially like if you're going for speaking engagements, paid speaking engagements. So there are different ways. Some people allow you to pitch your product, some people don't. And so what would you say? Like, okay, people have the title. Now, in terms of presentation itself, any tips that you might have for our listeners?
Sure. Once you have a title that you know people actually want, and not like your mom and all your friends say that is beautiful, but actually, if you say it to a group of business people and you don't have at least 10% of the people in the room say, I belong to an association, you should speak about that there, or you should come and speak to my company. Maybe they don't have any budget, but if they aren't immediately saying, oh my gosh, we need that. Not everybody needs that. That's so important. That's so valuable. And then you say, do you want to buy that? And they go, no, but other people should. You're in trouble. I don't care how pretty it is. So that whole idea of find something that people are excited about, and not just that you're excited. You have to be excited about it and passionate about it on one side. And on the other side, people have to want to pay you good, healthy amounts of money so that you can be a professional at it if that's what you want to do. And if what you're really looking for is business on the other end, which is what I tend to do with clients, is help them do that, then it doesn't matter so much. Then it's about getting in front of the right audiences and niching down into an audience into a market that is going to be the most excited about you. I know that engineers, for me, I can do it. They're going to think I'm okay, but I'm not the best speaker for them. I refer that out to other people that enjoy speaking to that market. So once you have that, then you can hang things off of it. You can make it the 7 secrets of something or other. So if it's, 7 secrets to double your business in 1 year or less, the beauty of that is transitions are where speakers tend to look a little fuzzy. I know I did in the beginning, but it's nice to be able to say, and the second secret to doubling your business in 1 year or less is, and the 5th secret is, it just allows you automatic transitions, and it's lovely. And there's a nice formula you can use of opening up with whatever you're best at. Ask 3 questions. The first one, something everybody can say yes to, but not a stupid question. Not who wants to make more money. Oh, good Lord. It's something interesting, but that everyone can say yes to. We can all bond over. A second question where people can shout something out. Hey, in 1 or 2 words, who can tell me the best thing that could happen to them this year? Maybe they'll give you a word or 2. Even with 1,000 people, you can have showrunners with microphones running up to get words out of people. It's interesting. And then great, a third one might be, if we could do magic, what would you want? What would we get? Something like that. But 3 questions up front works really well, because it gets you out of your head and into that audience. I tend to get nervous before I speak. Even after 3,000 of them, 3.5 million people in those, in the audiences, I still get nervous. So it helps with that. If you're that kind of person, if you're a great storyteller, you can start with that. If you want to do something interactive with people, turn to a partner, get them, giving each other back rubs, whatever's appropriate in your market and for you. And then after that, start each secret. Let's say you have 7 secrets or 5, depending upon the group. If you want to be thought of as a high content speaker, have more secrets. If you want to be thought as more of a motivational person, that's not as popular right now, candidly. So I don't necessarily recommend that, but that's when you use like 3 or something like that. And then each one can be make a point, tell a story that ties into it. 1 story, 1 point. So you get 1 point, 1 story, and then something interactive, raise a hand, nod, write something down, turn to a partner. It's just something to keep them actively involved with you. Shout out a word, something like that. And you can do that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. You don't have to do it all 7, especially if you don't have enough time, but it makes a really easy formula for creating a speech really fast. That's pretty good. And then the very end, you can use what I call circular construction, which is go back to, hey, we were talking about how you could double your business in 1 year or less. And you now have all the secrets you need to be able to do that. What's one thing that you guys are actually going to do? Shout it out. And okay, great, write that down, tell a partner, high five them or whatever, and then be able to say, I believe in you, and I know you're going to do something brave every day, and you're going to be a person that accomplishes that goal. If doubling your business is what you want to do this year, I know you will do it. And people send me letters. I know they do, which is awesome.
No, a lot of value packed in there. So thank you, Sarah, for sharing all these really cool nuggets that people can take them and implement them straight away. And I'm a fan of action. So based on what you have shared, and I know that you help speakers, you finesse them and you support them and you help them shine. So share with us a little bit about that, and how can people connect with you?
We work with a lot of different kinds of people, mainly people who sell services and also are professional speakers or want to be professional speakers, but people who are celebrities or want to be celebrities within their industry, either as a speaker, or I have companies that are 20, 40, 50, $75 million companies that we come in to double. Now, a lot of the way you double a company is by coming in and working with that CEO and making them a celebrity so that they can draw all the things that they need to draw into that company. So it depends on what they're looking for. Do they need to write a book so they have an excuse to talk to people and quote them in their book? Do they need to develop a speech so they can be that Broadway star on the stage, but also have really good authentic content? Do they need to be a panelist? Do they need to be on all the best podcasts in the world? And so my contacts over the years and that tribe that I've built allows me to connect people to what it is they want to do. But my main job is to double every business that I touch, and I can grow pretty much anything but a houseplant. So that is kind of my job. And our company we have divisions now that can get people those. They don't want no staff. Okay, you could borrow ours for a while. What? Literally, we will lend you our staff. You can have people handling your calendar and doing your email like Tuesday. And they go, what? Yeah, and then we'll hire you some overseas people, and for under $10, you can have them for yourself 10 hours a week. And go, what? So every time I see something that's getting in the way from a company, we have a $20 million company in New York that just couldn't get enough people. I mean, the talent war is really, really tough. So it comes down to so we brought in dozens of overseas VAs that love working there and having a great time. And now we're bringing them in live talent to come from other countries because they just can't, it's very niched and specific. So, whether it's growing their speaking or growing their business, I just love to help people grow and succeed. And my whole company, we are really passionate about that. And the way that they reach us is we are on every social media platform. You can find me at Sarah Victory on Facebook and Sarah Victory on LinkedIn and real Sarah Victory on everything else. And Sarah at thevictorycompany.com gets you directly to us. So, and we are thevictorycompany.com if you're looking for us. That's us.
Well, that's beautiful. And I'm sure that so many of our listeners will be reaching out to you. And especially if you want to become a professional speaker or finesse or shine, Sarah is the person for you. So thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah, and sharing so openly.
Thank you. It's my pleasure and my honor. You're doing such wonderful things in the world. It's lovely to be a part of your tribe, and I'm honored to be asked, and hope it's helpful to people. They deserve it, and you're very, very kind to have me on. Thank you.
Oh, it was a pleasure. And thank you, listeners, for being with us, because without you, the show would not be possible. You are the soul of the show. So reach out to us, what you're looking for, and we will bring you the experts that can help you achieve those goals and realize those dreams. And thank you, Juan, for making this show possible. Technically, because without the technical support, show cannot go on. So I will see you next time. Be well and take care.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.